So we got married in 1996. It was kind of a combination of Indian wedding. Her brother's restaurant catered that, and it was kind of fun. We had a great time. About a year later, in 1997, I graduated from college. I just got a consulting job, and I was supposed to start. I think I want to say in April or something, in '97. And her brother, she has a brother in between, so just right above her, gets an arranged marriage in India. And so Indian weddings really are huge weddings. Thousands of people come. And so I had just started a job, and Priya said, hey, listen, we should go to India. And since the wedding's there, it's a great opportunity. You can go for your first time to India. And I said, well, I just started a job. I can't just up and leave. So she said, well, listen, I want to go, and I want to go earlier, but can you come? So she decides to go about 2 weeks before me to India to plan this wedding and do all this with her family.
And so you guys have been married about a year?
Yeah, about a year. Yeah, I said, okay, you guys go ahead and get started, and I will come. And now back to my buddy that I was introduced to by a friend of another Indian. I had connected to this guy in India trying to import-export. I called him up and I said, listen, I'm coming to India. Priya is going to fly into Chennai, and then she's going to go about 8 hours away to a place called Coimbatore, where her hometown is. And I said, listen, I'm going to fly into Chennai. Can you pick me up at the airport? So this is 97. He has no idea what I look like, and so Priya got a picture of me and took it there, and they connected, and he gave the picture of me, and then she went to Coimbatore. I fly into Chennai, and Chennai in '97 was, I would dare say, one of the worst countries in the entire world. And I flew in, and I came out of the Chennai airport, and they just torn it all apart trying to get it, change it up. Not many international flights even then. But I came out, and it literally looked like a bomb shelter. But you had just millions of people. And what I did is I was going to India, not for a wedding. I was going to India to find my family. And it was just, oof. I might get teary-eyed, but that's just emotions talking. But I flew in, and he picks me up and puts me up at a hotel in India, and I literally can't sleep. Maybe it was jet lag, whatever it was. Because in my mind, I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, any one of these people could be related to me. And you think about, I had never been in a position where everybody looked like me, which is just exciting and intimidating at the same time. I didn't have much money, so we ended up taking a train, the 8-hour train, between Chennai to Coimbatore.
We as in you and this guy?
Me, and his name is Christopher Raj.
Christopher Raj,
yes.
Okay.
So,
is he Indian?
He is Indian, yes. Yeah, everybody talked about Coimbatore is Indian. So I am standing, and third world country Indian tracks, to give you an idea how they are. I mean, you have 1 million people shoved into it. Their toilets pretty much just dump in the center of the railway track. So as you go, it just drops down. And so, the smell is... Imagine, if you will, I'm standing between the two railway cars, looking out, pretty much the whole entire 8-hour trip.
Because
just to see it's like, oh my gosh, this is like ridiculous to me, right? That I'm suddenly here and it's all becoming real. And what I took with me was all these documents and this map. And I've got them, I think it's somewhere in India now, in one of my homes. And I got this map that I drawn, thinking, okay, I'm going to go out and I'm going to find them.
And you could kind of narrow down where you thought it was because of the letters and the orphanage.
Right, well, I knew the orphanage, where the address was, and then as a memory of a child, it's about a 3.5, 4 hour drive. to the orphanage. So we get to Coimbatore. Now, I want you to understand that in India, there's a vast difference between religion and culture. India's culture is very caste-oriented, very color-oriented, very cash flow-oriented.
Color as in skin color?
Yeah, absolutely. So the lighter the skin, the better you are, type of a thing. And so my wife's brother, his name is Manuel, getting an arranged marriage. I wanted her father, since he understands who I am, we've been married a year, to help me find my family. But her father and her family want nothing from, they want me to do nothing. Because they were afraid of a couple of things. One, the arranged wedding was going on. And two, they were somewhat afraid. They didn't want to know that, number one, we were a love marriage. That we got married, we were in love because it wasn't arranged.
So that's what they call it, a love marriage?
That's correct, yeah, love marriage. And the other is, there's a caste situation. They didn't want me to find out. They didn't want other people to know that, number one, love marriage, and two, if I was a lower caste than what they were agreed to. And so they wouldn't help me at all. Matter of fact, I got to a point where I accused her father, because I knew that he was associated with this orphanage, and his also had a brother who had another orphanage. So I accused him. I said, how dare you not help me, and you know this orphanage, why aren't you helping me? And it got to a point, I blew up, and again, it felt like I was running away from home. I just tore into the guy while he's getting ready to marry his son off. And I walked out of that house after traveling 8 hours with my buddy, and I just said,
Priya was there.
And Priya was there, but she didn't. I mean, she's still,
Yeah.
she's still young, and
Sure.
not much to do, and women are not important in culture.
Yeah.
And so I stormed out of the house like I own the place, right? I don't speak the language. I'm dressed in nothing. And I'm just storming. I'm walking down with millions of people like I own the world. And, and they were afraid, because if I opened my mouth, I mean, I speak, but English, nobody understands English. And so they sent people chasing after me, brought me back, but they wouldn't help me at all. And they said, well, you're coming here to the wedding, and that's it. So I called up my buddy Christopher Raj. He was working for the Indian Railways, and so he was just doing me a favor. I mean, I only met this guy on the phone, and we've been conversing, and he came to drop me off and then go back to work. And he's supposed to go the next day, and I said to Chris, listen, I can't. You just got to help me. I can't depend on these people. I need you, because I can't speak the language, and I need a translator. I need somebody who can understand. So I sat him down and I explained this entire story to him. And so I now have him on board to help me. So the first thing we do is...
Is he married, or...?
He's married. He has 2 sons.
Okay.
So he's away from his family, called his
8 hours
job.
away.
Yeah, called his job and said, hey, listen, So he's just a great man. So he stays with me, and I'm only there, I think it's a 10-day or a 7-day window opportunity. So the first thing we did was we took a bus, and we went from Priya's hometown, a place called Coimbatore, to this orphanage, and it was called Madukarai. So we got off the bus and we got to the address.
And how far away is that?
It's about an hour and a half from Coimbatore by bus. And we got to this orphanage, and the orphanage, we come to find out, is been shut down. Not only shut down, it's been kind of chopped up into pieces and sold off to different people to live in. And, my heart was crushed. I go, oh my gosh, all I have is, this is the start. And I thought I could go to the orphanage, find out more details, and they'd connect the dots. So, nothing even existed at the orphanage. So this was about mid-morning when we got there, and, I was like, okay, what do you do? And I remembered there was a little school not too far away, but before that, I started tract. We said, all right, listen, let's go tract and just ask people and see if anybody, I mean, the orphanage is there, they've got to know. So the first door we knock on, there's a older woman, probably in her late 60s, sitting there mid-morning having some breakfast. And I'm in jeans, t-shirt, and and then he's clothed as an Indian, and he starts talking to this woman and saying, hey, we're trying to find out more information about this orphanage. And she was pretty, open. She goes, oh yeah, my husband worked at the orphanage, and I used to be the headmistress of the little school that's near the orphanage. She goes, what do you want to know? So he started, just talking into, hey, we're just coming here finding out more information about the kids and all that. She goes, well, my husband, who would know that information, has passed away. I'm like, oh, man, kids can't cut a break. But in the between, while we were there talking, another gentleman comes in, probably in his, I'd say, mid-30s, late 20s, mid-30s, coming into the house. And he starts to stare at me. I'm like, wait, well, maybe he's just doing it because I've got Levi's on or whatever. Now, by this time, I had my passport picture, and the pictures I've got, Chris has shown them to that lady. And
so does the lady now know that you were at the orphanage?
Yes. But this gentleman comes in and looks at me, and he says, apparently tells my friend, I know this guy. I'm like, this guy doesn't know me from Adam, right? He goes in the back room, comes back with a picture of him and I when we were at the orphanage.
He was at the orphanage?
His father helped with the orphanage.
Okay.
So this was that son.
Okay.
And so he would help out there and he'd hang out there. And here I am. And so,
What's his name, do you remember?
I can't remember. I can get all that information. But, I got the Whippy Julies, I got the hair growing up in the back. I'm like, and then he was able to tell a little bit about me as a child in the orphanage, but that was it. Nothing. They couldn't tell me how I got there. He had some small memories of me playing and what we did and all that, but that was it. Nothing.
So even though it was a lead, it was nothing.
Nothing. So we get back on the bus and we go back to Coimbatore, and I'm now just pleading. I'm now apologizing for the night before because I blew up, and I'm pleading with, and they very Indian, nothing. So I finally cornered her brother, who's supposed to get married, and I said to him, listen, hey, Emmanuel, I just need your help. Just do me a favor. Take a look at this map that I had put together. On the map, it has a small school on it. Again, as a child's memory, a park, and a small river, and these little huts that I drawn up of. And he looks at it and goes, I don't know how to help. There's nothing. What am I supposed to do? This is 1 billion people here. So the next day, my buddy and I, we rented a taxi, and we decided,
This is still Christopher.
Christopher, yeah. He's staying with me the whole time.
Okay.
So we decided, look, I remember it was about 3.5 miles circumference somehow to that city. So we spent the whole day. It was like a 12-hour day just driving in circles further and further
in a cab?
out in a cab.
The cab driver was loving it, I guess.
Yeah, because I had nothing to go on, right? And nothing. It was just horrendous. It was horrible. It was hot. It was in the summertime, and humidity was, anyway, it was just not a good experience. Came back to Coimbatore. I sat down her brother again because he's the only one who'll talk to me now. And my wife is beside herself because she can't help me. She's a woman, and
I was gonna say she can't help because she's a woman, right?
Yeah,
it has to be a man.
Yeah, and she nothing. Yeah. So I sat down with him again. I said, "Listen, dude."
Was she relating to your pain? So
kind
to speak,
of, but again, she's Indian.
Like,
she's Indian.
Get along with the family.
That's
please.
right. I'm only a year married, and we're at a wedding. And so finally, I sat down with brother and I said, can you help me out? Can you at least point me in a direction? And then anyway, he said, I thought about that, and I think there might be a place that I want you to go to, a place called E Road. And it is about 2.5 miles the opposite direction of Coimbatore.
2.5 hours?
2.5 hours, sorry. 2.5 hours. So Christopher and I got on a bus. We go to the city, and Priya's brother had organized one of his old missionary companions to meet us at the bus stop. So we got out, and by this time Chris had to, he had to do a quick errand or something, so he left me with this missionary companion. And so this missionary companion took this picture of my map, and we just drove around trying to find anything resembling this. And by the end of the day, nothing. My buddy Christopher comes back, joins us. We spent the night there in the slums of this missionary companion's house, and that was a true experience. Scared me out of my mind. But the next day was the wedding, so we went back to Coimbatore, 2.5 hours by bus again. Attended the wedding, and then that night I just had this strong impression that I need to go back to the city. And I still remember my wife and I are lying in bed, and I'm pleading with her because I only have a few more days left before I have to come back. And so she hasn't seen much of me at all. And so I told her, I said, look, I just have to do this. I have this strong feeling I got to go back to the city. We called this missionary up, and his name is Isaac. And we said to him, listen, you're young. Can you make arrangements for your father to join us this time, because he would remember how the city used to look like, because we've had 17, 18 years of change by now. So now we get back on a bus, go 2.5 hours, and his father and Isaac, myself, and Christopher now get in this little rickshaw. And you guys have seen the little rickshaws, right? So we got the driver in the front, we got 4 guys sitting in the back that's really made for one guy. And we started to just start driving back to Isaac's.
Is the driver on a motorcycle, or
what's that?
is he on a motorcycle?
No, all of us are in this rickshaw.
Right, but I mean the driver.
He's just pulling it, right?
No, the rickshaw. He's in the front.
Is he
Oh yeah. He's
along?
driving. No, he's driving. No, I'm sorry. The rickshaw is actually a rick. Is actually a automated rick, not a proper rickshaw, not one that's pulley. He's actually in the front driving it, and you got seat in the back.
Sometimes you have a motorcycle,
Correct.
they'll hook on.
Right. No, it's not. I think you're looking more of a Thailand.
Yeah,
this is more of an Indian.
Okay.
It's a small, like a golf cart.
Okay.
So now we're driving down, going back to Isaac's house to kind of sit down and coordinate. And as we're driving, at the corner of my eye, I see a guy, old man. We're talking about it's really hot. We're talking about it's extremely hot. And here's a guy naked on top. He's got a little lungi on, and he's just chopping a coconut. I can hear the thud, and you've got traffic going backwards. And third world country, traffic is just motorcycles and noise and everything. And suddenly, it was like changing the channels on a television set. And a memory flashed. Boom! And I said, stop! And I ran out, running opposite direction through traffic, cars coming back and forth. And my buddy's Christopher's right behind me. And I said, hey, a park used to be over here. And now we go to this park, and the park is completely changed right now. But the old man who's with us, I'm like describing the park. He said, yeah, that's what it used to be.
This is the
Isaac's missionary companion.
Father.
Yes, father.
Okay, it wasn't the guy chopping coconut.
No. But that sound of the visual.
So it was the sound of the visual that triggered the park memory.
I'm not sure.
So you never talked to the old man?
No. I'm running past him to the park.
Wow.
So from the park, now I've got my map in my hand. I'm like, hey, wait a second, this is supposed to be over here and here. And this old man goes, yeah, that's right. And we get to the place, and we've discovered the location of where I remember the landowners and the huts that we used to rent from. And now, since the 18 years, all the land has been sold, and big buildings coming around it. And yet, that house that this old woman used, the landowners owned, this big cement house, I remember, was still there. So we go to this house, and as we're entering the house, there's a woman sitting out in the front. And this is the woman. And we go to her, and my buddy Chris, now we got Chris, Isaac, his father, coming to this, and my friend whispers, goes, hey, she's a widow. I said, how do you know she's a widow? He goes, well, she's wearing white. And so we went there, started talking to her, and the first thing they said, hey, is the man of the house around? She goes, no, he passed away. Whole long story. And now these three men, out of the respect for this, they don't want to talk to her. They don't want to ask any questions. And
Because she's a widow.
yeah, I'm like, so we're turning around, and I said, I don't give a rat's, whatever you think. We're going back and talking to this woman. And so, by the way, let me pause the story before we get to that. When I spent the night at the slums at Isaac's house, the story now has come around into that slum that I'm looking for my family. So the next day, they're getting people coming and saying, hey, that's my child. Hey, that's my child. So now this time when I'm coming back, we're not saying that I'm the one looking. We're pretending that we're friends of myself trying to find the family. So there isn't this...
Yeah.
So we're now concoctioning a story. And so the story is, when we're talking to this woman, and now that we know my name, which is Chalamutu, because of the passport, and I remember that was my name, they started talking to her and saying, we're here looking around for information about a child that was kidnapped. The moment she said kidnapped, Chalamutu, she starts to say. And she starts to say, Chalamutu, Chalamutu, and talks about this entire story about how her family, this family that put up billboards and signs and went crazy looking for this child for a long, long time. Anyway, they started talking about memories and all the things she remembered about this boy. And, as you've got three guys talking to this woman, and I've got my buddy Chris whispering in my ear, translating.
Yeah.
And I'm just having a fit, right, by this time. And she says, after we discussed talking, she asks, do you know where the family's at? We want to find out more information about this family. And she goes, oh, they moved about 10 years ago. And because, they were poor, I said, well, do you have any idea? She said, I have no idea where they're at. So, another stop. I'm like, how is this possible? And we finally said, well, do you know what they did for a living? Do you know what they're doing? Any of that? She told us that my father apparently became mad at the loss of losing a son, and pretty much started roaming the streets and smoking a lot and smoked ganja a lot, and became really a madman. And he used to roam the streets and had no idea where it was at. But she remembered that the older son was also in the clothes dyeing business, and that he went out to start a business of his own of doing bleaching of cloth. The bleaching, what happens is when you take raw cotton and you put it into big sheets of cloth, it has a little bit of a yellowish tint. And what they do is they actually take the bleach and put it into a big swimming pool of bleach and just kind of wash in it and then get it bleached white before they add color. And so we said thank you very much. And so we got back on the rickshaw and we decided, well, if she can't tell us where they are, there can't be that many places that do this. Let's just drive around them all. Let's find out all these bleaching factories and we'll search it out. So it's in mid-morning, so we started driving around. We got, 4 guys, we get back on the rickshaw and we started driving around. Well, come to find out, E Road, the city, is probably the largest place in the entire world
For bleaching.
the quantity of bleaching factories.
Yeah. That's great.
So after about 5 different bleaching factories, now what's happening is I've got jeans on, I've got 4 guys, and it looks like we're cops coming around and asking questions,
Yeah.
right? And we're talking about in a poor country, and we're asking questions. And so nobody wants to talk to us now. And finally, we decided, and as we're going around, we're finding ones that have been established for a long time, and then a gee whiz moment. Hey, must have been less than 10 years ago. Let's go ask somebody if they know a bleaching factory that started recently. Well, we found one, and we're driving through a little bit of dirt roads, and I wouldn't say jungle, but very rural areas, because that's where the space was. And we come up to this one bleaching factory, and you've got this man, as we drive in, you got this guy who's, waist deep in bleaching. I mean, bleach just washing around, naked on top. And my buddy and these 2 guys ask him, hey, we're looking for, and we found out, and my brother's name is Silverage. So,
And you knew that from the landlady?
from the landlady, absolutely.
Okay.
So now ask this gentleman in the bleach, hey, we're looking for Silverage. And he looks at us thinking we're cops. Goes, Silverage who? Protecting his friend, right? So after a lot of coaxing, these 2 guys say, well, we're here because we're in search of Silverage. His brother, who's away, has asked us to come and find his family. And so apparently this guy knows about that I've been gone. And he finally agrees after coaxing to come out. He's getting dressed, dressed, and then he now gets into our rickshaw. Now he's sitting in front of the seater. We got now 4 guys, 2 guys, we're driving around.
5 guys on the rickshaw.
Yeah, we have 6 guys now with the driver.
Oh, yeah.
A rickshaw. And we're hanging off, and after about 20 minutes or so, we come to this kind of a barren hill. And from me to probably the house over there, probably, I'd say 600 yards, I'm seeing this hut. In front of the hut, I see this woman, probably in her mid-20s, with a red sari, and I can see as vivid as day, just flapping in the wind. And she's walking in front, and there's 2 naked little kids running around, probably 3 and 4 years old, 2, 3, 4. And my Christopher whispers over to me and says, that is your sister-in-law, niece, and nephew. And I'm just a crazy mess by now. What I do is, knowing all the problems, I wanted to be 100% certain that this is my relations. So I told my buddy and them, I said, listen, I'm going to hang out in the back. You guys and I'll just sit and watch. You guys go forward and do all the talking. But remember, I'm not here. We're here in search of. So got my hands in my pocket. I'm stepping in the back. And my buddies go to my sister-in-law and said, they start conversing. Hey, we're here. We wanted to look at. We found out my name is Arai and Silverage, and she said, oh, Silverage is out, but Arai, because back then the mother lives with the eldest son. So she is taking a bath in the river, which is down the hill. She goes, just wait here, I'll go get her. So I'm standing by the rickshaw, and they're closer to the house. And after about, 8-9 minutes, you see this old woman, gray hair, just booking it up the hill. Half naked, just wet hair still, tossing her clothes on. And, I just knew this was my mother. And she comes to up there and immediately just just is bawling and talking these stories, and without even my friends saying anything, because the sister-in-law already said, hey, here's some people coming around asking questions about Chalamuthu. And so she comes out and talk about my fingers, that nobody would know but my family, and the markings on my feet, and then my teeth. And so she just goes on and crying profusely and all that.
How far away were you?
I'm now between here and maybe the kitchen,
Okay.
but I'm kind of blocking it because I've got that rickshaw in front, right?
Yeah.
But you can hear it all.
Oh, I can hear it.
And
I don't understand anything.
She's in Tamil.
Yeah, she's in
Tamil.
Tamil.
Yeah.
I don't understand a word, but my friend will come back and forth, kind of talk
Okay.
to me, and we're because she, I don't know what they were thinking, but there was a whole conversation going on. And I've got the older man and the missionary there too, participating in all this. And at one point, she points to me and said something like, he would have been around his age, right? So what we said, after that, we said, thank you. We will come back tomorrow and gather all your family together. We have some further questions. We come back to Isaac's place, and I called up my father-in-law and my wife, and I said to my father-in-law, because he was older, out of his respect, I said to him, listen, I know for 100% certain I found my family. Can you come and explain in Tamil what has happened? And he said no. And again, I don't know all the reasoning, or if it was the wedding or whatever it was, he wouldn't come. I went, picked up my wife, we came, we sat, and it was a great reuniting. So since that day, in the last 18 years, I've been very, very involved in their life.